And we were able to establish a live stream. Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome into the show, America in Crisis. And with me tonight is an American rock star, Bill Muckler, book author, military man, family guy. Just they don't come any better. He's fighting every day at 11 a.m. in the morning for you on Facebook and throughout social media platforms. We're trying to like and share him to everybody we know. He always comes strong with good commentary. And tonight he's been kind enough to come back, I believe, for the second time here just to conversate with Michael Anthony, on this platform to, just have some great conversation and any comments you might want to put up or possibly post. If we can, if Bill can answer them, if I can answer them, if we can just voice opinion, we're more than willing to do that for you. First thing I'd like to bring up to you tonight, Bill, if I may, please. And I'll let you take the platform because you are the man. And my hat's off to you for everything you've done and all your accomplishments. And then we'll even try to do what we can to give your books another bump out there to let people know that you are a fabulous book author. I mean, you really get into deep detail. But nevertheless, it came across the media today. And I was able to confirm some of it because I see it doesn't mean I don't like to try to confirm it some way. But it seems now due to harsh weather conditions and the 10 cities that were put up because of the overwhelming amounts of numbers of people crossing the border into the United States with the welcoming committee that, they made a drastic decision to start placing all these illegal people crossing the border now to house them in the educational system within the schools, the gymnasiums, on the floors outside classrooms. And these are going to be new living quarters in some areas, and probably that will grow. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah. Hey, Michael. Hi. And hello to all the viewers and everybody. I'm really glad to be on the show. And I hope my daughter's on because she asked me about America in Crisis, and I wasn't even thinking straight. I was thinking, I'm going to be with Michael Anthony tonight. Before we went on air, we were just kind of chatting. And let me put this whole conversation in a historical context or perspective. We're on the show 2 hours after Nick Saban retired from Alabama as a coach. And the only thing I guess I have to say, in addition to what we talked about before, if he stays in Tuscaloosa, he'll never have to buy another drink or dinner again for the rest of his life. So I think he's probably in good shape. How about the rest of us, though? Well, I'm probably in pretty good shape. But in New York City, for example, they've got invaders. Now, I can't help myself. Some people call them illegal aliens. Some people call them migrants. Some people call them undocumented, whatever. To me, they're invaders. They've invaded our borders. You can see them coming in droves. They look like armies. They got flags from their country, not ours. They don't speak our language. They're invaders. So there's so many hundreds of thousands of them that Texas can't handle them anymore. So Texas sends them and Arizona sends them to places like New York, Chicago, wherever. So in New York, they built tents for them because, Michael, the reason they're building the tents is they've run out of luxury hotel rooms to put them in at $500 a night. We got veterans sleeping on the streets. Nobody's taking care of them. We got a lot of homeless people. God bless them. They're struggling with their addictions or their mental problems or whatever they are. Instead of getting them help, we just let them lay on the streets. But the invaders, we put them up in hotels. So now they can only stay in hotels for 30 days. I'm trying to give this a little bit of context. Okay. So after 30 days, then they got to move them someplace. Well, then they put them in these big tents. So they erect these big tents. These things must cost a ton of money because if you buy just a little camping tent, it's a ton of money, right?
Right.
So they put them in these tents. Well, the one example that just happened this past week in Brooklyn, New York, the southern part of Brooklyn, kind of a marshy area, nobody lives there, but it's federal ground. They decide they're going to build a tent city there for the invaders. Well, what happens is the local people said, hey, you can't do that. This is not the place to do anything like that. It ain't going to work. And they tried to convince the whoever the brain trust is who has no brains, right?
Right.
So they build this tent city. Now they find out, hey, it's wintertime and we got this big blizzard or the snowstorm coming through. The temperatures have dropped considerably. These people are the invaders are in difficult situations. So what are we going to do with them? Well, it's pretty easy. We'll just move them into a school. So they bus them all in yellow school buses. They bus them 5 miles up to this James Madison High School, and they put them in there. Well, guess what? Now the kids don't have any place to go to school. So they say, okay, the kids can, they can Zoom. So now the kids are going to become Zoomers again. But we know that the teachers aren't prepared for that. The students aren't prepared for them. So what are the kids doing? They're going another day or days without education. They're doing TikTok while the invaders are hanging out in the school. And we know what they look like because we've seen on TV what happens is they trash wherever they are. I mean, it's a mess. They destroy it. And who knows, by the way, this is another thing. I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but they don't have guns. I guess because the government didn't give them guns when they came across the border. So they bring their weapons of choice, which is knives. Now, some of the reporters are saying, hey, what about all these people are being stabbed? They said, well, we all got knives. These are the people that our government is bringing across the border and putting in schools. And they're going to run out of schools pretty soon, Michael. Pretty soon they're going to be, like you say, in churches. They're going to be every place you can imagine. And we're not going to be able to go anywhere. And the government apparently has the power because they've got the guns to come over in and tell us, here's what we're going to do. And here's what you're going to do. And so tens of millions of them. Where are they working? They're not working. We know they're not working because they're living in luxury hotels or tents. We're feeding them.
Yes, we are.
So try and figure this out. We're feeding them maybe two or three meals a day. 10 million of them. Well, that's not really the number, Michael. The number is really more like 40 million. Because you have to count all the ones that have been coming across for years. How about all the millions that came in when Obama was in president? Then when Trump kind of cut them all down, but there's still probably another million got in then. And now we got another 10 million came in. And that doesn't include the gotaways.
Right.
And how about the gotaways that weren't on camera that they didn't count? When they say 20,000 gotaways came across the border last night, what they do is they got border agents sitting there watching TV and counting them as they come across. And they say, right, listen to how many came across. How many came across that the TV camera didn't see?
Exactly. And that's a huge area of territory for that border wall. I say, they like electricity so much and they want the new Norm Green, electrify that thing. Give them a reason. Or I tell you what, maybe, just maybe, let's get like 50,000 alligators and put them in a river. We could use the ethic of cowboy mafia on them and turn this all around. But if we were to do that, of course, yeah, we're wrong, and we don't agree with anything, and we get placed in that barrel of fun. And again, when all this started, Bill, my thought was the more they can offer them, the more they can give them, the more they care for them, the more votes they can collect from them. And I'm sure that they're all being talked to, and I'm sure they have people there speaking their languages, guiding them on what to do and how to support the government that is bringing them in. This government that we have does nothing for nothing. They want to make use of every element they can, and especially now, even more so with Trump so far ahead of everything. But here we are, and you've nailed it right on the head. And we are feeding them. I mean, we're clothing them. Even if you really think about it, Chicago gave $9,000 in grants per person for living quarters. Another state, I think, was 5,000. It does where that actual location is right now. I know I have a post for it somewhere, but it's just not in my mind right now. They are getting money hand over fist, and again, America is the one forgotten about. And again, what you brought up on for how long has this been going on? It's been going on for years. And I think even President Trump mentioned a few months ago that we were nearing on his information, which let's say that his information is better than ours. 14 million plus got away. So I don't know, but you're probably not off when you're talking to America with me here by saying that there's probably 40 million of them here. And
Yeah.
my biggest worry is, with everything we're seeing, are these places to plant the cells for the possibility of an implosion on America to come in a much more devastating way? It's like buckle up for the ride 2024 because we're in for one. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, you got it. I've been trying to figure this out for more than 10 years. How many people actually live in the United States within our borders? And I can't find an answer because no one seems to know. And these censuses they're bogus. I actually back in the year 2000, I actually went to work for the Census Bureau. I was in between consulting assignments, and I didn't have anything to do, and I wanted to do something. And one of my neighbors said, "Hey, they're looking for census takers. All you have to do is go down and sign up, and you get a half-day training, and you become a census taker." And I thought, hey, that just for laughs, I wanted to find out what it was all about. So I did that. So I became a census taker. That whole thing was so screwed up and so corrupt. And the people running it were so incompetent, it was unbelievable. So anybody that says, well, this is how many people are in the United States, they don't know. So I Google every now and then. I'll Google and I'll check out like 6 or 8 or 10 different sites, and every one of them has a different number of how many people live in the United States. Most of them right now are somewhere around 330 million up to 340 million. Let's just use round numbers that are easy for us guys to talk about. Let's say there's 330 million people living in the United States. 280 million of them are citizens. 50 million of them are not citizens. About 10 million of them are in this 10-step naturalization program for legal immigration. The people who came into the country the right way, they're going through the whole process. They're studying. It's a long process. They learn how to speak English. They end up eventually being sworn in as citizens by a judge and the whole thing. So there's another 40 million that are not citizens. Hey, we give them driver's licenses. We give them ID cards. We give them everything. And like this guy, Eric Adams, mayor of New York City, mayor of the largest city in our country. He says they're guests. Oh. We have to take care of our guests. They're not guests, they're invaders. They invaded our country, and now you're giving our country away to them. It's like if if our army invaded a country and we just went in and invaded them and took over the country, they say, well, you're our guest, we'll give you everything you want. We'll take everything you got. That's exactly what they're doing. But this whole thing you start off with about schools and government buildings, hey, they're in the airports, they're in the police stations. Well, in Chicago, they don't know what to do with them. And Chicago gets pretty cold this time of year, so they got to let them inside or there'll be frozen bodies on the sidewalks. And that's a bad optic, right? I mean, they don't want that to happen because after all, they are a sanctuary city. So they got them in the police stations. They got them in the libraries. They got every place you can think of. Now, some of the Chicago aldermen are saying, wait a minute. They voted for this to be a sanctuary city about 30 or 40 years ago, when there was nobody here. Now that they're here, we don't think this is a good idea. We want to change that. So now we're starting to see some of the people who are really in favor of this whole migration from South and Mexico and Central America and South America and the rest of the planet ain't really a good idea and ain't working out so well. And the thing of it is, you ever notice now, every now and then on TV, you'll see they'll be interviewing or they'll be showing some people that are protesting, and you got a bunch of moms out there now are saying, we ain't for this. We don't want this. We want our kids in school. We don't want to have to walk around all this stuff. And, so there's the potential of a rebellion. I hope there's a potential of a rebellion against this whole thing, but it scares me.
I know. And I think we talked a little bit about that. Also, one part that you may have left out that was part of that trickery too, that people stayed here that were invited was through the foreign exchange student programs. How many infiltrated America for the past 40 years since that has started taking place? I mean, truthfully, we have to consider that too. And that's how another part of how the numbers become so great. Like when you say 40 million people, oh, it can't be. No, when you look at everything that has happened, including the fact, like as Bill's just brought up, this is very highly, highly important. When he says they vote for things and pass bills for things 30 years ago because they didn't matter in that point in time, but now affect you in this point in time. Space-time, here it is. It's not ufology. You don't have to be brilliant to understand it as long as you look into it. But and one of the other things, when I hear all these representatives out of Washington, I mean, Mexico's up there in quiet meetings, no press allowed in the room, wanting millions and millions of dollars. And, what have they done to stop the entrance of their country to prevent this? Because they knew what Trump stood for. And Biden told them, step out of the way, stand on, let them enter. I mean, that's exactly in my mind where it is. The same when we see the narrative of now get Trump off this campaign. Let's stop him. And you have people like Fannie Willis, who we're finding out spent $700,000 to $1 million with her sex partner, a true relationship partner who is an attorney who has never tried a case in his life, a high-level case such as this, where a president is sitting right in front of a judge, and now that she's living lavishly, taking vacations with this guy. I mean, does nobody vote for the fact of efficacy of what money can be used for what to support who? And aren't people taking in Georgia the fact that you're trying to tear down and take down a nation by removing a president from his rightful place to run for a presidential election? So here you have this woman in a relationship. So that's been like that's the crap hitting the fan in the kindest way that I could put it right now, that I'm looking at of how huge misuse of funds are. Because if this is her boyfriend, She's living high off the hog and reaping the rewards from all the money she gave. And we know factually that she has done it.
Yeah. And the guy, pardon me, I'm sorry, it makes me laugh. She says this guy's name is Wade. He's her mentor.
Yeah.
I guess he's a little bit older. Okay. The guy, you're rightfully so in saying he's never prosecuted a case before in his life. I guess he's been a defense attorney. Now he's the lead prosecutor against Trump, and he's billing out. Did you see some of his invoices where he's billing the state of Georgia like 8 hours at $250 an hour, $2,000 for consulting with the White House?
Yeah.
And coordinated several of those with the White House. So the Biden criminal enterprise administration is obviously involved in this somehow.
Oh,
we know they are. So Fani Willis, yeah, she's having a good time in the Caribbean and Belize and the Cayman Islands and everything.
They're getting paid to corrupt the system that was once good in America. That seems like now is just a fairy tale, and they're creating a coup, all sitting behind closed doors in that special white building in Washington, D.C. But that's exactly what they're doing. And now we're looking at all these different states. It seems like there's an objector to every state, somehow trying to demand, for their state to remove him. As many as Trump has already won, put behind him, many more are popping up. And I don't foresee that to end until probably November as we start to see the Supreme Court hearing all this. The one thing I fear is that, what if these guys truly don't see it the way we do and they pull a Roe versus Wade and push it back on the states? We're sunk. We're sunk in that ship. But I'm not saying that would happen. I'm thinking that they're going to have to really think logically and out of the box on this. Our Supreme Court justice in Washington, of course. But, we've seen when they try to think how to put it back into the hands of the people. The establishment of the people has been broke. They even made that maybe as a mistake. And I'm not trying to be judgmental towards anybody and not give anybody proper support. But, I wouldn't doubt anything at this point in time. I'm going to hope to God that they make rightful decisions on the evidence that's presented to them by the preponderance of the evidence and what it means. But we've seen that almost backfire in their face, even when it made good common sense to do so. They gently backed off it and said, states, make up your own mind on how you want to do it. And it seems they got through it, but they don't let us live down how they got through it. They got what they wanted. They just needed to make the stink.
Yeah, for sure. The thing of this is, this has been going on for years. But now all of a sudden it's coming to the surface, and because of one thing, Trump.
Yeah.
Before, nobody was ever digging into this stuff. Nobody was calling anybody out. Everybody was just letting it go. It was just all part of the way you do business. Go back to 2015, 2016. All of a sudden, Trump comes along and he starts calling out, the illegals, the invaders coming across the border. He starts calling out all the corruption that's going on and all the rest of this stuff. Now, all of a sudden, they got to get rid of Trump because he's, in a sense, has blown the whistle on them. So now,
number one whistleblower,
they stepped up their efforts, and all of a sudden now we're starting to find out how corrupt they are and how incompetent they are and how they've been, in a sense, screwing us, we the people, over all these years. Now it's all coming to the surface, and it's all coming to the surface because they got to get rid of Trump, because Trump got this whole Pandora's box opened up. And boy, I just, I know there's a lot of people that are never Trumpers, but if you stop and think about if we have another Biden administration, or heaven forbid, somebody like Michelle Obama steps in and gets elected, boy, we're screwed, because I don't know if we can handle another 4 years of this. This last 3 years has been pretty dreadful in my mind. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see mass ballot bundling starting out in September to rig the election, throw the election. I wouldn't be surprised to see a huge outbreak of China virus again, some kind of new variant or strain that'll put us, lock us all up again, put masks on us. Thing is, Michael, some of us weren't for this, didn't go along with this in the first place. And I think there's a lot more of us aren't going to go along with it this time. So, boy, what's going to happen? Are we going to have a civil war? Are we going to have a mass rebellion?
Well, I think the mass rebellions occurred, but you're right on the money there. I think, with all respect, people followed Trump's rule of thumb: peaceful. And people stood behind that, but they also became very aware of the strength and power of anything upon a negative movement. We saw that with January 6th. Now, I'm going to bring something else up. And I made a post about this, and maybe you'll agree with it. Maybe you'll say, I don't know. But when you look at things like that sudden attack of aliens in a mall in Florida, I think that's not in your neck of the woods. Did you see the amount of police cars that showed up in a heartbeat and helicopters for that? But yet, January 6th, what everyone is still protesting against and we're still fighting for, and our constituents in Washington are fighting against and for the truth, for American people to see the reality of what really occurred, who was involved and who were in the buses released and who was Ray Ebbs and all the other narratives. I mean, it's just mind-blowing how many police showed up for a suspicious gang fight with sticks and fireworks versus an alien invasion. But whatever it was, there was no support at the Capitol that day that there was for some disobedient youths who were out trying to create narrative of destruction and fighting amongst each other, where you see 150 police cars and SWAT teams. And did you observe any of that BS that was going on?
It's selective, isn't it?
Yes.
January 6th of 2021. They didn't want the police there. In fact, I'm still convinced that these stories about 60, 70, 80 FBI agents or federal agents being in the crowd, agitating the crowd and everything, if there were actually insurrectionists, that's who they were. They were our own government people that were doing it. This whole thing was all meant to discredit Trump, because they're scared to death of Trump, because they want this new world order. They want to take over. They want complete power. They want to rule us. And Trump is an America First guy. And like him or not, Trump is a guy who, while he was president, we had lower taxes, we had lower unemployment, we didn't have any wars going on, the border was pretty much closed. There was some coming through, but nothing like before. Building the wall, I wasn't for the wall at first. I thought, hell, just put the military down there and say, look, if you're going to come across this country, we're going to shoot your ass, and then nobody would want to come anymore. I mean, that's pretty simple. If somebody says, if you take one step towards my property, I'm going to shoot your ass, what are you going to do? You're going to turn around and leave. You ain't going to take the chance. So anyway, but we're building the wall. Okay. We've got so many things going on, and right now, Michael, if you try and figure out what's happening in this country, it's almost impossible, because they have so many distractions. we got the Russia and Ukraine war. Of course, that's kind of on the back burner now because they don't have enough time to talk about that, because now they got the Israeli Gaza war going on, and they want to use that. So if they can talk about that, then we won't be thinking about the invaders coming across the border. We won't be thinking about our education system going to crap. We won't be thinking about $34 trillion in national debt. Right. And we'll think, well, maybe we're kind of used to now that $3-4 a gallon for gasoline. So, I guess it's not so bad. We can live with it somehow. We'll just put some more credit, put some more money on our credit card and we'll get by. And so, we're not really facing the real issues of what's really happening to our country and our culture. And all these invaders coming in from the country, from other countries, they ain't coming in here first of all, they're not working because they're all low skilled. Probably a lot of them are very lowly educated or illiterate. They're coming here to get the low skilled jobs that we've already shipped out to China and Thailand and Vietnam and India and Taiwan and Malaysia and every place else. So if they want to work, and they need to go to those countries, not come to the United States of America. So here we are. We got all these people coming in. We're running up a national debt of $34 trillion. Our credit card debt now for Americans is more than 1.06 trillion dollars. I have no idea what our mortgage debt is, but I think it's somewhere around $4 or $5 trillion. So we're a country that's in debt. And what happens if they pull the plug on us and our currency is devalued to where it's not worth anything? We're screwed. Think about it. You got to have currency. You got to have money. You got to have credit. You got to have something to be able to put gas in your car, so your pickup truck or your car or your whatever. If you want to go someplace, like go to work or go to the grocery store or go to church or whatever. And if you ain't got the money, you can't do any of that stuff. And I'm afraid, with what they're doing is they're just distracting us from understanding what the real problems are with all these other issues that are going on. And my greatest fear is that we're going to have a very deep recession this year. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope I'm 100% wrong on that. I hope I'm dead wrong. But boy, we're heading in that direction.
Well, and we are, and we'll be gouged in that direction even harder. I agree with all your numbers and statistics. I had notes to all those same effects in my head today that I was going to bring up. So thank you for doing it for me. I appreciate it, because, it makes for good conversation, especially when we look at the point value is of where we are as far as 6.7. We're not that high. But yet, today a friend of mine, I don't want to mention names, but I have a lot of respect for this person, furnishes me with some information just to give an example of how, when they say we're only at a 6.7% higher in the economy right now, when we're paying 3 and 4 times the amount for products like a 2-bag pound of Hershey Kisses, £2 or $20, and Alka-Seltzer, I think it was $6 a pack, $16. I mean, these are items that we're paying double and 3 times more for now. And, they come up with fraudulent numbers because it fits the narrative of how America needs to foresee what building back America again is all about under the Obama administration. So and it's just spinning and spiraling out of control. And it's not even just there. Our homeowners insurances are all going up. Our car insurance, everything in the economy, rents, mortgage rates. Even though they softened it a little bit by a couple this or a couple that, and then they strategize it to go back up. They want to keep it in a still position. Anytime you keep the economy, in my mind, in a still position, it creates failure. The fluctuation of money not going out, reaching to the other party's hands, kills the prosperity of a country. But that's what they will do, and that's what their attempts are to do, just as you have said so eloquently. You really have. And then we look at narratives of why it works so good for them. You take an idiot up in Washington whose kid, who has been seen on laptops, videos, and more, his paintings only get bought by the big money donors, and that these checks can be tracked. So it's a correlation of strategy, as you said. The distractions are so many and so big, and my thought is this, if we manage to make it back through this year somehow and actually have an election, a proper election without contamination of everything that you brought up earlier, the ballots, et cetera, we need to go after these corporations. Trump once gave them the brakes to build back America with him, and they honored him, but they switch sides wherever it's better to go. And when there's a new leadership, they jump the ship. My point to what I'm getting at is the fact that if they have millions to give away, we need to tax millions upon top of what their profits truly are. The only way to build America back under an administration with we the people, us, and a president who works for us and we work with him, is to go back after this. Again, will we see that future come? Will we be able to conquer it? Will Trump enforce it? I believe he would. Because these people have basically slapped us all in the face, gave money and donated money to Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and other big names that were all conspiring against bring down America and tear down our statues and history. But yet these people were important. Give them a $5 million donation. Give this one $1 million. And these corporations were doing it. So my thought is Trump needs to hang them by their pockets and take everything that he can from their pockets to make America work with a prosperity, a future, because that will do it. Taxation on them until they behave rightfully, take it all from them.
I agree. And well, you brought up something that it really concerns me. Is you notice that we were in this cancel culture a couple years ago, and then that kind of, that didn't go over so good. So then we became woke. Yeah. And then that wasn't really going over so good. So then we became DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yeah, they're teaching that in schools now.
Yeah, and
hidden agenda names.
So any way to make it sound like, oh, we're doing something great. In the meantime, what they were doing is they were bribing these corporations into donating money to like Black Lives Matter by saying, if you don't give us money, we're going to call you a racist. Well, nobody wants to be called a racist. So there you go, talking about 5 million here, $1 million there, etc. And it just goes to show that we got some people in this country that, they've got their own rules and their own way of doing things. And it's not exactly what's helpful to we the people. And it's all, I think it's all about, they're trying to get us to a point where we have a country that's not really a constitutional republic or a representative constitutional republic anymore. That and boy, we're getting there, and most of the people are so apathetic about it that they just don't seem to understand and don't care. I talked to a lot of people, and they said, "Well, we don't." And I talked to one lady. She said, "I don't follow politics. It's boring. I don't know anything about it." And I said, "Well, aren't you interested in the future of the country? Well, there's nothing I can do about it. And then you
That's
talk,
sad. That saddens me. I'm sorry.
yeah,
That just breaks my heart. It really does.
yeah. But anyway, there's so many people, they say, well, you can't fight City Hall. Well, that's an old saying.
Yes, it
Now it
is.
means you can't fight the federal government. Anyway,
Maybe we didn't fight hard enough. Maybe our parents and grandparents could have did a better job. But we're at a whole new era of technology and how we can control narrative by exposing these people. Hey, but that's where they stand on a new narrative of something that's never been mentioned in any paperwork from our forefathers that brings us to date on where we are. Is this word democracy? Where did it come from?
the word democracy.
Yeah, I mean, besides being placed in a Webster dictionary by some, people.
I think the first experiment that we know of in democracy was about 500 years before the birth of our Savior in Athens, Greece. So they experimented with democracy, and it's been tried in several places. Typically, people have been very content to be ruled by kings.
Yes.
And who the hell was the first king? I'd like to know, and who decided, who's going to be king and who's not going to be king. I guess it was the biggest bully or the strongest bully in town or in the village that said, "Hey, I'm taking over. I'm the king. Worship me," type of thing. Well, that's what we got in Washington D.C. And boy, we talk about people like this Fonnie Willis in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they are. They think that they can do anything they want to do, and the problem is, Michael, is that the people that vote for them, they like this. They think it's great.
Yeah, I know. It's because they don't have any work. They're relying on somebody to guide their lives because it's like they're lost on knowing how to do it. There's been a gap of a blank spot in so many people's minds. I mean, even Gen X is coming up with this, or Gen Z, whatever these people are pushing on how they're dividing the culture of generations, or now, but they really are now pushing people of 50 and above out of their jobs so they can get better acquainted with the newbies coming in with the pronouns to be able to share the modification in language. But they're actually less qualified for the jobs that they're taking from people who are now being pushed out of the jobs. They're saying they're creating jobs. They really are, but they're bringing in stupidity and getting rid of the knowledge.
Yeah. And boy, getting back to knowledge, education, apparently we were deceived 100 years ago or more with the education system when I guess the education system was made to just keep people smart enough to be able to go to work and put 8 hours in. We didn't want to educate people. And what if we see what's happening around the world, our test scores, which, maybe test scores aren't the most accurate thing or most important thing, but well, when you're number one, when your student population is number one in test scores on the planet, and now you're in the 30s, and everybody's jumped ahead of you in places like Singapore and so forth, or like number one or whatever.
Right.
You have to start to wonder, what in the hell are our kids learning? And then you read stories about like how in the high school system in Baltimore, not one student, not one senior was actually eligible to graduate because they couldn't pass the examinations. They said, well, the teachers teach how to pass examinations. Well, they're not doing a very good job in some of these places. And I think that's kind of bogus too. I just don't understand. But
I don't either, especially when they're allowed to use their phones to look up the answers.
yeah.
I mean, because we have fallen into that reality too. I mean, almost to like where it's become the new fad. It blows my mind. But here we are with a new generation because they can teach an ethic of diversity in a better way and in the work environment. It just blows my mind that they will accept stupidity over knowledge. And that's where they're tallying up. How Build Back Better under Joe Obama is so much stronger than what we had Build Back Better and Make America Great Again under 45, our president, who we all rightfully believe should still be right now just that. But, here we go back to that thing where they're judging them all. And one of the things that comes up in my mind about that too, I'm just to reflect back a little bit, to open up this can of worms with you just for a quick second here. A president can be judged is what they're trying to push now. And this is going to be an opening of the can of worms, but and it makes me wonder why they would even go in this direction. But they are pushing it in this direction where, you can charge and go after a president after he leaves office. But while he's under the presidential powers, he's untouchable. So that's going to open up a can of worms for Bush, for Obama, for Clinton. I mean, maybe it's the hayride we all need to jump on because they can prove nothing that Trump did wrong. I mean, Trump has nothing but, even though it's painful to watch and it's a carry on of a method of bullshit, it's like ka-ching, 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 and he just keeps rising up and rising up over them. But how do you feel something like that is, this narrative where they can just solely go after one person, but not everybody?
Yeah, well, the reason they're dragging all this up is they just want to get Trump, and
right.
The Democrats and the Republicans are the leftists and the conservatives, however you want to divide us up, really have two different thought processes. The Democrats, the leftists, they're the Marxists now. And let me tell you, they are Marxists because they are the people who are promoting the oppressed versus the oppressors. The oppressors are dominating the oppressed, and the oppressed have to raise up. So what has to happen there is the people. I kind of lost my train of thought. The people have to help me here. Where am I going with
maybe? I don't know how you wanted to go into that, but the oppressors versus the oppressees, and how do we do that logically? They won't listen. There's many who won't listen, but we need to do it. You're right.
Yeah. So they're putting us in a position whereby we don't have a way of combating this because they're winning the war of words, and because when they say you're an oppressor, they're really saying, well, you're a racist, or you're some kind of a phobe, you're a homophobe, or you're whatever you are. And so consequently, those of us who are just trying to make the country go, we got to fight all this BS along the way, that they're putting out there to distract us and to get us to a point where we can't really do anything positive or good because we're always on the defensive trying to say, hey, we're not racist. Well, I think we just have to get away, drop all that.
Yeah, because you're absolutely correct. I mean, it creates nothing but social anxiety on the public as well, which creates sickness, which creates fear. And it's definitely a psychological format of political warfare and weaponry through the logic of the power of words. And I used to warn people to expect that this would happen. I'm not kidding you. Just as you have in your books, and as you said, as far back as 10 years ago when you were trying to speak through voice and in your writings and so forth, and just hanging out probably with some of your soldiers and friends. But, this is part of what we need to put aside and create a positive outlook of what we can expose on these people are the only strategy that makes them understand. But while we do that, we are punished through it, and they will remain punishing us through it. Or if Trump makes a move, we will be punished for it. So it doesn't matter if it's him. It doesn't matter if it's Congress exposing the list, the Epstein list, and all the people, and why Joe's willing to work with Israel, because Israel and Mossad has them over the barrel of that whole honey trail of what that was, and that show. I mean, we might see something blow up out of the water coming out of there that no one would ever expect. Because I always said, why would two presidents of two different factual demeanors have an interest in the same country? One in a positive, and believe it or not, one's always got a fear. And that's why they will go there. They will do whatever it takes. I mean, but that's how this works. And it's part of a secondary system that goes beyond the psychological warfare of the political weaponry system. So, it's a tough battle. And America needs, as many people have said across TikTok and all Instagram and all the other platforms, buckle up. It's going to get tough. And we may see things, and we don't want to see our economy totally crash down. I don't know. I bring this back up just for a moment. With them having such an important agenda for 2024 to keep control of this country, I don't know if they would put us in that place and narrative. But I tell you what, if we manage to struggle through it, bet your bottom dollar, if you don't invest in brick and mortar or a piece of ground or something that they can't touch somehow, some way, food, toilet paper, you're going to lose it. You're going to lose it to these people. And that saddens me. And that this is probably one of the reasons we're starting to see the attack that's coming in a different way of this workmanship of this political weaponry system, where now signs are going up because their wording hadn't worked with the people. And the people, when they told the people, we want your guns and we don't want you to, people went and bought them. So now they're creating gun-free zones, signs, and they're trying to place them up all over everywhere. And what does that do? That is a violation of our Constitution, of our rights. Our Bill of Rights, the right to carry and bear arms. But yet they're going to put these signs up anywhere. And some people, it will demobilize some people from thinking that this will be a gun. I know if I had a permit to carry a weapon, just say, maybe I do, maybe I don't. That's my business. And I say that for logical reasons. Nobody's going to tell me because a sign's posted up, just like don't park here, don't carry a gun. This is a gun-free zone. They did that by trying to say smoke-free zones. I mean, they create this system that, does affect people's logic and common sense.
It's more and more regulations and more restrictions. I think you and I have talked about this before. When I think back of when I first started school with the nuns, I was 5 years old. It was 1940. Then we had all kinds of freedoms we didn't even realize or didn't really appreciate or didn't really understand. And then as the years went by, you saw these things becoming more and more regulations, more and more restrictions, more and more laws, a bigger government with more and more bureaucracies, bureaus and offices and departments and so forth, to a point where the federal government is really ruling us. And I'm not so sure that the American people are really wanting to be governed and ruled. I think we want to be responsible and self-reliant.
Yes.
But unfortunately, what they've done is, because of a lot of the government interference, the government programs, and the way the government has kind of brought us along, very slowly, to a point where we're so dependent on the government that there's a lot of people in this country, and it's getting maybe close to 50%, are living off of welfare and food stamps and Section 8 housing and getting free cell phones and every other kind of benefit you can think of, free health care, the whole bit. that's what they want, because they don't know any better, and they don't know how to go ahead and change it
Well,
and change
you
their
know what?
lives. They don't want to change their lives. They want to wait every month for the government to send them their check, send them their SNAP card, so they can go to the grocery store, and or go wherever they want to go to buy
And
their
that's not
food.
being oppressed, but they take it that way. My thought is this, Bill, and you probably think the same way. If you're knocked down, it doesn't mean you stay down unless you wish to do nothing about it. Don't use that against the public because you chose not to be strong, to stand up and continue forth, because there's nothing but greatness everywhere in the United States of America. And I just wanted to throw that in there. But people utilize that oppression and that narrative of, well, it's how I was. It's what? No, 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 no. America woke up to a lot of things in a positive, good way, and it was what you put into it. We see people that had success in a lot of places. Some regret it, especially when you go into the music industry and what we're hearing in Hollywood and all that. But the point is, you can have success if you want it. You can have a job if you want it. The sad part about America is, and I think you said this, I was listening in the background to your show today, Bill, and I was there. I promise you, I listened to you. Where you brought up America needs to get off their asses and take some of these jobs. Otherwise, we're leaving that opening of the door for the people who are crossing the border who will be willing to take these jobs. But no, somehow, some way, I'd rather complain about everything than do something that would genuinely help America as a citizen of America, and give it away to somebody else because they're coming in because they feel it's a second place, a position for them, and they shouldn't have a second place. They want to move to the top of the line without qualifying to get there, or without deserving a proper work ethic to get themselves to that form of a platform. So anybody that uses that, it just saddens me. So if I'm speaking out of turn against anybody, this isn't directed towards anybody that listens to the show or may. I'm not trying to come off that way, but a fact is a fact. And that's part of that other part of the strategic that they relied on that we hear about.
No, you have to keep telling people. Sometimes you have to tell people news that they don't want to hear. Sometimes you have to tell them things that they don't like. Sometimes you have to hear this. What I was referring to on my show this morning was we got an entire class of people, and this is really getting to be in the bigotry and racism, but not on our part, Michael, but on the part of the government, whereby they've taken these people and said, well, you can't really do anything, so we're gonna give you a free life, so all you have to do is wait, and the government will send you your check or your benefits every month. And the way they sold that was, they said, well, we need to bring all these invaders into the country because they'll do the jobs that the Americans won't do anymore. Well, wait a minute. The reason the Americans won't do the jobs is the government told them they don't have to do the jobs because they're going to get free stuff to sit home and not do anything. So now we bring in another class of people who are, Hispanic. They're from Mexico. They're from the Triangle of Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, or they're from Venezuela or whatever. And now they're going to do the dirty work. Well, wait a minute. Who came up with the idea that all of a sudden we got entire countries of people, entire classes of people, entire races of people that are going to be subjugated to doing certain types of jobs? Housekeeping work in motels and hotels, or doing the cleaning in the office buildings, or mowing lawns, or collecting trash, whatever kind of jobs they are. Who came up with the idea that we got to have a certain class of people that do these kinds of jobs? Hey, when I was young, I did all these jobs that Americans wouldn't do. I actually hauled trash. I picked up honey buckets. If anybody knows what a honey bucket is, that's what's inside of one of those porta potties that has a bucket in there. Now I think they just pick up the whole thing and they take it someplace. When I was young, I had to go down and pick up the bucket and kind of haul it up to the 55-gallon drum and dump it in there. God, I can't believe I did all that. I actually worked for a guy who had a kind of like, he was more like a gentleman farmer. He had horses he trained and so forth. They made me the assistant Tennessee walking horse trainer, which meant I operated the pitchfork in the stalls. You know what you do with a pitchfork in the stalls. So I pitchfork manure, and people say, well, you haven't worked until you went out and baled hay and collected hay. I picked up so many bales of hay and threw them up on the top of the flatbed wagon that was pulled by a tractor. I couldn't tell you how many. I actually, one summer, because I'm a college boy, people say, oh, you went to college, I guess you had it really good. Yeah, one summer I went up to Wisconsin and I worked for the California Packing Company, which was a division of Del Monte, and Markeson, Wisconsin is a pea picker. And there were 5 of us went up there from the University of Missouri. We went up there to work. We got paid 65 cents an hour. We lived in a big barracks, just one bed next to each other, no walls, no nothing. And we ate in a big cafeteria. They paid us, we got our meals free, and they brought meals out to us out in the field. But I actually worked as a pea picker, and we're working alongside migrant workers from all over, hobos, a few other college boys, a few people that you kind of wondered if you were going to live through the night, with them in your barracks. I've done all these things. Why all of a sudden can't people do these jobs anymore?
I don't know. I mean, what makes one job better than the other? Most of the low-level jobs that you're describing are the hardest jobs in America to perform.
Yeah,
which means that we had better backbone, we had better stability, we had better upbringing, we had a better sense of common sense.
But I started saving money when I was very young, and during World War II, we could actually, and we did this at school. We'd buy these stamps and we'd put them in the book. It was like a savings bond book. And when you got, I think it was $18.75 worth of stamps in there, your book was filled up. You turned it in, and 10 years later, you'd get $25. So we were saving money and investing in the war effort, buying bonds, war bonds. So I started saving money. I got myself an account, a passbook savings account. People don't even know what passbooks are anymore.
Oh, I do.
In the local savings and loan association, I used to go in there, and I'd go in there and give them like $1.25 or something. They'd write it down in my book. Yeah. When I graduated from college, I worked and earned all of my spending money and everything go through college. My dad paid for my housing and my food, and tuition and fees and books and everything were practically nothing. I think it was $50 a semester was our college fees back then. So we worked. Everybody worked. I ended up with more than $1,100 when I graduated from college. Now kids graduate from college and they got $11,000 or more dollars in debt.
Yeah.
And so what's changed? The government got involved in education and started with the school loans. And once the government started guaranteeing college loans for tuition, the colleges thought, okay, now we got this cash flow coming in. So we start, adding staff in. We start tenuring professors. We start paying them more money. And all of a sudden, the cost of education goes from what it cost me, about $1,000 a year total, lodging, food, books, fees, everything you can think of, supplies. $1,000 now, it costs what, $25,000 to $50,000 a year to go to some schools. They say are $100,000 a year. How in the hell did this happen? It happened because the government got involved. And the more the government gets involved, the more government is going to control it. They're going to restrict it. They're going to regulate it. And so now we got a whole class of students who can't pay their student loans, and they got these worthless degrees in gender studies or whatever the hell they studied, and they can't get a job anyplace. And they can't get jobs, and the low skilled workers, they can't get jobs because they're all over in Southeast Asia or someplace. So what's going to happen with our country? We keep bringing in more and more people to live in the country, and we got all kinds of jobs available, but we've got nobody qualified to fulfill them. Just like, for example, I'm kind of concerned about the military services. Now, my Marine Corps, I'm okay with, because we're meeting our enlistment quotas. In other words, our recruiting quotas, but the Army, Navy, and Air Force are not. And that's because 70% of the high school students are not qualified to join the military service. Actually, it's more like about 71 or 72% now, because they can't pass the test for educational test, or they got records, criminal records, or they're drug addicts. In other words, they can't pass a drug test. And physically, they're not able to perform the necessary things like being able to run 2 miles or do push-ups or pull-ups, whatever kind of stuff they do. So now think about that. If we've got more than 70% of the people of our young high school students who aren't eligible to join the military, be in the military, what in the hell can they do, and what kind of future do they have if they're not even qualified to do something just as basic as to be serve 2, 3, 4 years in the military service? How strong can our country be if our young people are so weak they can't even serve in the military? That should be a concern of ours. So we've got that on our hands. We got them with student debt that they can't pay off. Now Biden, he's still working on trying to get us to forgive the college debt. Right. So somebody who is a welder or a truck driver or whatever kind of good, honest profession, career that they're in, they're now supposed to pay the debt that these college students who went to school, squandered their money on who knows what, got a worthless degree, and now we're supposed to pay for their debt. And that's right. Crazy. Nobody paid my debt because I didn't have any. If I didn't have any debt, and hey, my grandparents immigrated from Germany. They came over here on a boat. They went from the harbor in Baltimore to St. Louis on a train. They learned how to speak English. They got jobs and they worked. I didn't come from, and my dad's dad, my grandfather, I never met. He passed away when my dad was in the 3rd grade. My dad had to quit school, drop out of school, him and his older brother, and go to work to do jobs to be able to support their mom, my grandmother, and their three younger siblings. I didn't come from a lot of money. I I'm not born rich or anything like that.
Right.
But there were so many opportunities that I seized, and there's opportunities for young people, young kids today, and some of them are taking them. The thing of it is, I'm afraid that the percentage of them is going to be so small, they're not going to be able to carry the load of the 70 or 80% who can't even qualify for the service or graduate from high school.
Well,
Who's going to carry them?
I don't know, but wasn't there a time where Obama told kids that were being charged criminally in courts, he gave the judges an ultimatum to give back to the youth, join the military, and we'll give you a free pass in. I mean, so it was falling apart back then when he did that because they weren't bringing in people with structure. Thank God we still had good morals in the military who taught these gentlemen very well and are now fighting with us, for us, and standing up for America, knowing the truth of the cause. And something else I wanted to bring, when you said they're coming from Ecuador and whatnot, there was something that came across the one of the news channels earlier, and I found this to be, appalling. Why did we just release people from prisons? Well, because that's where all the corruption exists. That's where the leaders go. And they run their corporate dialogues from these places, whether it's trafficking guns, ordering takedowns of people, and so on. These young kids go and they're called narcos, NARCO apostrophe S. They created an act of terror on a news channel while it was live, went in with guns and took over the place. And you talk about how brilliant people are, no matter who gave this order. And supposedly the order came out of someone in a prison in Ecuador. They stayed around to be arrested. I mean, I get what they were doing, but where's the logic in that? And this is who we're opening the floodgates for to come into America. So, here we are, $130 million more, we had given over the past several years to Ukraine. All the things that you're bringing up are the worries of where America's going and with our military. We are not in the best way by any means. Here's the problem, though. When we look at this, having the lowest test scores throughout all the countries, what is there, 187,000 countries? We probably are the lowest now of average. We just can't turn this around and flip it. It's in our face. It's a reality. Somebody's going to have to do something. Otherwise, they're going to start doing what they're saying and suggesting that they're going to do for the illegals that cross the border. They don't need to qualify they don't need to do anything to qualify for a driver's license. Just give them one. I mean, is that the method of madness that's going to happen? Just let them in. If they're willing to fight for our country, they can become part of the Army or the Air Force or the Marines or the Navy or Space Force. I don't know, but there's openings everywhere. We do need help, but we're just not under the right presidency to offer logic to create a stronger structure to protect our country, even at this point in time. I mean, aren't they right now double down dogging on what's his name up in Washington? Military, the black fella up there. Can't think of his name. Austin. I'm sorry?
Floyd Austin. The Secretary of Defense?
Yeah. They're all over him right now.
Lloyd Austin.
Yeah, Lloyd. There you go. I mean, where are we? There's nothing that goes right. There doesn't seem to be any proper chain of command. And of course, the commander-in-chief is missing in action. So, I'm with you, brother. I am. I mean, you brought up so many good topics. And that last segment you just gave, I don't want to try to stay on it all, but because I think you answered a lot of questions for the people and gave a good opinion of concern of where we are, what we're headed into, because everything is just destroyed.
Yeah. Where do we go from here?
Well, it seems that America's pissed off, and we need to become, in my mind, just to say, a real new norm news. To do the best that we can from the seats that we sit from behind, doing what we do now, trying to just talk about the information, understanding it, creating a little bit of opposition, of concern and opinion, is never going to create a cure, because even us, I think, in ways, are waiting for the big guy to come back into the office, because you and me, is just as people, don't have the control mechanism or the power of the think tank and machine that we're up against. And all we can do is express concern. Where do we go? I don't think it's ever going to be up to us unless we push the words that we need to into the right person's ear that can take control of the helm and get this flipped around if that day comes.
Yeah. We've you and I, and here's something that concerns me. I'm looking over here on the right side of my screen, and there's a place for comments, and we got a lot of viewers, and they're making some comments and so forth. And so there's people that watch your show. There's some people who watch my show. I'm on some other shows that, as a guest every now and then, people watch. And my fear is, Michael, you and I are talking to real patriots. That's who's watching this show.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we're preaching to the choir, because they understand what we're saying, that we may be saying it in a little bit different way than they're used to, or we may be reinforcing some of their thoughts and beliefs, but we're all pretty much on the same page. We're all patriots. And I think all of us are, you and I, and all the people that are watching, the viewers, we come from the same stock, the same founding fathers that said, we declared independence from King George III. We declared independence from government rule. Now we've got half the people in this country are declaring dependence on the government. They want to be dependent on the government. And I'm afraid that, our viewers, they get it. But how do we get to all the people who aren't watching, who are, watching Netflix, or I don't know what in the world they're what they do at night, or watching sitcom. I don't know. I haven't watched I haven't watched anything on cable TV or network TV in so long. I don't even know what's on anymore. So
I understand.
People say, "Hey, you're really out of touch. Hey, you're an old Marine. You don't know what's going on." But I
think you're more in touch than a majority of the people you're referring to. Yeah. Just how do we get into their ear when you have this poison of control that's out there narrating them, where they're willing to accept you'll own nothing and you'll be happy? Is that the illusion, the disillusion, the illusion of the disillusion of the narrative that these young folks and some older people think that they need to have? And then you still have people who, they're going to support their church 100%, no matter what comes down from the rabbit hole on how possibly corruption could be. Or, you could jump that into the narration of the government or a government party. They have been Republican their whole life. They stand with the Republican. They can make no errors. They're a Democrat. They're going to stick with the Democrat. They can make no errors. That's where we are. And they have utilized this cognitive dissonance, explosion of corruption, of how they deliver their messages of madness through media and the formats of which people, in fact, probably believe more than they would believe our side of the story, because if the media says it, they don't have to look beyond it. And that's how they get away with it. And, you know, these actions of protections that were put in place, I think, in 1948 that Obama got rid of, where media doesn't have to actually be true. Just say what you feel. And they know they can get away with it. The other part of the corruption that exists within the existence of the corruption is the fact that the corporations of the global networks are also the people who regulate their own networks of the corporation. So they own them, they rule them, they control them. They are the ones that make the final decisions that have preparated all these actions to be taken. And when you have that and nobody does nothing about it, everyone has seen it on both sides, but no one said, hey, how the hell did this pass through? What can we do to reverse this and recreate a structure? Or bring it forth in a bill somehow to make it better, more sustainable, to where it benefits everybody. It doesn't, and that's the whole narrative of why we do what we do. These people made everything up and placed themselves in a position to regulate their own problems and their own successes, so nobody can be touchable. They are the untouchables. I don't know what to do anymore, Bill, except to hope that even if we only got to one person's ear tonight that says, wow, I believe some of the things, they don't have to believe everything, but if they say, I believe one of the things, and they start thinking for themselves, they start using their human instincts to want and to have and to seek the desire to research more, as we did and as you have, and you've given so much. And I hope people got nothing from you but tonight a very positive message, opinions, but also truth and facts, because they have to look to make their own conclusions. Guys like us are not the big leaguers. We're never going to be, even though we might touch and talk about things that they cannot bring up publicly, but we can somehow miraculously. Somebody's saying, let these guys speak.
Occasionally I turn on cable news because you and I don't have 70 or 80 people on our staff to prepare everything and monitor all the news that's going on around the world. We don't have big staffs like that. We don't have access to the news coming in or anything like that. All we can do is find stuff on the internet and try and, and kind of know who are some people we can trust, and maybe they lead us to somebody else and so forth. But I'm watching on TV, and they're showing an interview of this guy interviewing Michelle Obama. And while she's talking, they're sitting across from each other and look like some pretty nice, comfortable chairs. Good for them. And this guy's going like this the whole time. Whatever she says, he's going like this. And I'm thinking, do you have any brains at all? I mean, you sitting there and agreeing with everything she's saying, and then I see another one where there's this female is on this stage with about 4 other females and I think one guy. And she's now the head of Star Wars. She's like the producer, executive producer, vice president of Star Wars. And she's going to transform Star Wars to where it's now influenced by females, by women. And her goal in life is to make men uncomfortable. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. And everybody's saying, oh, yeah, oh, great, wonderful, and people in the audience are clapping and everything. And this is Disney that she works for that's doing this, I think.
Right.
So does anybody sit there and I'm just using this as an example. So while I'm sitting there watching this, I'm thinking the biggest majority of people are going to watch Star Wars are probably going to be guys. They're probably 60 or 70% of the audience is going to be guys. And your objective as a person who's responsible for the fiduciary success of your company, make sure you make a profit so you can do research and development and pay people and stay in business and grow. You're doing this to make your audience, the biggest part of your audience, uncomfortable. What are you thinking about? And then I'm thinking, and the other thing is, I remember when the first Star Wars movies came out in 1977. Boy, I'm a big science fiction guy. I love to watch these movies. I go and watch this movie. And who's the star of the movie? Who's the voice of wisdom and everything? It's Princess Leia, who's played by what's her name?
Was she a black actress?
Oh no, Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher, Eddie Fisher's daughter. And
Oh, okay.
I think that's Eddie Fisher's daughter. No, Carrie Fisher. So she's a female, and she's kind of like the voice of reason for this whole thing. Luke Skywalker was kind of like the voice of adventure, or what, however they want to break these characters out. I don't understand all that stuff myself so much, but I'm thinking, wait a minute. 1977, that's almost 50 years ago, and every one of these Star Wars movies that's come out has always been very favorable and very positive about the female roles in it. And now she's going to change this and give it the female influence and because she wants to make guys uncomfortable. What's she thinking about? And everybody they're thinking this is wonderful. And I'm thinking, does anybody sit here and think what they're hearing on the news? And I'm just trying to give some examples here. This is on all the time. Does anybody think, wait a minute, I'm not so sure I'm buying into what they're telling me? And so we hear the politicians talking. Boy, they can spin some crap, can't they? I mean, yes. we don't know. All we know is if their mouths, if their lips are moving, they're lying, right? And we believe what they have to say. We believe everything that if it's on TV, we believe it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had to retrain my kids to. It wasn't this. That is not how the true system of life works, especially when your kid comes up to you and said, well, these tennis shoes are better than the other ones. And I was like, well, what brought you to that conclusion? Well, they said it on TV, and I had to sit them down and say, nothing makes it better unless I'm wearing less. I will wear something of less value to make sure that you fit in a little bit better, but I'm only going to go so far with that demeanor. But yeah, you're right. It's the manipulation and how they got through and what the past 50, 70 years has all been about since the model of the television come on to where this indoctrination of everything was. The TV comes out, the stove comes out, the refrigerator comes out, politics come out, storytelling comes out, Orwell's comes out. I mean, all these things that kept somebody glued to something that created a structure to put us into the narrative of the slow stepping process to where we are today. I mean, I see stuff like you on TV. Some of the things I caught was something they talk about sensitive content on all these platforms. And yet on these platforms, you will see people now taking certain political offices, no longer putting their hands on a Bible, but on a stack of porn. And I'm not joking when I say that to you. They're walking up, putting their hand on a stack of porn. And I noticed this happening. I'm like, what is going on with this? Why is this going on? But, it's because it's a compromise of negativity where they know certain people will willfully just accept this. I don't know if it's because they're somehow being mind controlled in a way that people that have common sense and faculties see this as criminal and disgust. But yet there is another side. I don't know if we'll ever break that cycle, because when we go back in history and time, no matter what it is, whether it's, porn being allowed on Facebook or putting their hands on stacks of it now to be sworn into a God, what office, but that's what people were doing. And it's not like there's enough fight back, but it almost seems that there is just as much fight back as there is just as much acceptance. So I don't know if we'll ever break that barrier. All we can do is hope that we collect and gather the votes and keep exposing this corruption as it's happening, because we're seeing it right in front of our eyes. No one seems to care from either side that can do anything about it. They care for it. That's the wrong wording, but I think they know the difficulty of the removal of what it would take to do anything. And it amazes me that our side, and I guess due to a lot of the rhino and rhinoisms that are on our side in Congress, that no one has enough strength, and we don't have enough strength, even with that, to make it stop or just shut down a platform. Because that's what needs to be done when I see things like that. But yet they're the ones that put it out to the public. And again, it must be what's being most viewed out there.
And you have to also ask yourself, does this really make America a stronger country? Does it make us a better country, or does it make us just maybe a more compliant, a more easy, whatever kind of country that, everybody can do whatever they want to do and have whatever they want? Talking about swearing in. Another one, I know you noticed. I know you saw this one, where you see now we have some of the people who are elected to office are Islamists, and they swear on the Quran.
Mm.
The word Islam, translated in Arabic, it means submission, submit.
Mm-hmm.
So our country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. So how can somebody swear on the Quran, which means submission to a different ideology that's not Christian Judeo? Makes no sense to me whatsoever. But
what if that was all a lie?
This is what's going on in America, because we gotta be sure that we give everybody everything they want, as long as they'll be controlled by the government.
It seems that people are willing to accept it in some cases. I don't have the statistics and numbers, and I don't think we can look anywhere to find them, to be perfectly frank. But we know that there are things out there like this that exist and that are happening. What are the numbers? What do they mean? It's the same when we were talking about how many people are in the United States of America. Yeah, I mean, I've seen as high as 370 million, but think about it. How many people vote?
Boy, that's a good question, because in the last, if we just want to talk about federal election, presidential election, it was what, 81 million to 74 million or something like that. So that's about 155 million people out of 300 and something million. About half the people voted.
Right.
But then I don't know if those numbers are really that good, because if you go back to the elections around the year 2000, which is not that far away, the numbers that were voting then were like around 50 million people. So there was like 100 to 105 million people voting in the elections. I don't think that there's another 50 million people who have voted in the elections. I think that we've got another 50 million ballots. But I don't know if anybody voted those ballots. I think they were kind of either manufactured or printed or bundled or something. Right. That's why I'm so skeptical about the election process.
Oh, me as well. And I know in the next day or two, the post office is going to make sure that whatever needs to be delivered to America will come out in strength by the tractor trailer loads. What does it mean? I don't know, but I know that they're starting to set up a system. It's not going to be a system that's going to do anything to protect the system that we, want within our government, but it's going to happen that way. And, it gives them enough time to plan well enough an execution of whatever is to come. I don't know, but I do believe when I listen to Trump, he tends now to talk a little stronger, produce a little bit more information as every day goes by that he comes into the public eye, whether he's here, there, or anywhere. He discloses more and he tries to keep positive influences to America. So I think when it comes down to statistics, he knows if the numbers that come back through that he is getting, that he has the best chance to take back America for us, we the people, and put it back into place of our hands where we can try to correct this. The other part of the fear is, though, knowing that we have such a strong mind in hand with capability, is the fact, will they ever be willing to just give it up? Because every part of this government needs a set of handcuffs for every one of these people that committed all these crimes the last several years and more that put us into this dilemma of an execution on the American people. And that's basically what they did. So they're slowly executing every one of us.
You got it. Absolutely. Doing more damage to this country. If you remember back in 2008, Obama said he was going to fundamentally transform America. And people kind of wondered what that all meant. And I guess some people thought, well, that's a good idea. This country is all screwed up. It needs to be changed. You know, everybody had a different interpretation. What he meant is we're going to change this country over to a black Marxist ruled country. And he did more to affect race relations than anything I've ever seen in my life. I thought, you know, we were pretty much over that, you know, in the 1990s. And all of a sudden now here we are in 2009, and all of a sudden we're promoting racism again, and we're telling everybody that those people are racist and they're white supremacists and everything. And just another way to divide the country. And
sure,
I don't want our country transformed. I want to go back to the way it was about the time I started school when I was 5 years old, where you didn't have to lock any doors and you didn't have the government telling you everything to do, and you didn't have to worry about, you know, you didn't need a packaging engineer to open up half the things we buy at the grocery store.
Right.
Everything has just gone completely crazy in my estimation.
Yeah, you're right, totally. I mean, you know, I'm not going to disagree with you. If anything, you know, I learned from you, and I hope I can help extend some of the same type of thought pattern back to you from the things I say. But when we look at Obama, you know, we saw his mistakes and his successes. And the political gains and how he narrated around them. And I expect to see some of the same things occur. I expect to see how they will step into the future of the 2024 election. But I also don't want to forget, and I always want to remind people the mistakes he made and the gains that Trump got from his mistakes. I mean, if it wasn't for Trump supporting all Americans equally, he would not have had the Latino vote. He would not have had the black vote. And look, why is the Black Party of America standing up, and the preachers of America who aren't afraid to speak in the church to say, under Obama, we got nothing. We got more suppression. And that is the truth of the fact.
Yeah.
Obama supported the narrative. He was the told to do so person. The Uncle Tom, is now some people call him, of the black culture, so-called. But this narration of who he was and the true colors is, I think, how Trump built such a successful platform for the election. But impressively enough, in the middle of that night, tides changed. We have a lot to worry about. We have an awful lot to worry about. And I don't know, even if we come out victorious, that we will come out victorious, if that makes sense, meaning stolen again. I don't know if we're in a position to be able to protect it. I want to say to everybody in America, get some porta potties. Go to when this all goes down, stay at these places where you're going to go and vote, and camp out and stay there and hope for the best. Because when the world sees us out in massive numbers, they will have no reason not to believe who the true winner is in America. But again, will that mean anything? Because, of course, we're not in a position of place, even through all the fights, the movies, the mules, and everything else that we've been able to produce. They've been able to suppress the information and get it pushed off. That's my biggest fear. That is truly my biggest fear. So are we sitting here, throwing pennies into the wishing well? Is that too much? I don't think that's too much to ask. If I got to throw my penny into the wishing well and hope for that same thing that you want when you were 5 years old, I'm going to hope for the same thing when I was 5 years old. That we live in a better America with, prosperity. There's, better people who have now come to a better place in life where we understand each other. We have more respect for each other, and we can take on the demeanor of the negativity and destroy it and keep it at bay, and somehow successfully, fix the world for the children and their future. Because if what we have, as you pointed out so magnificently, is the fact we cannot have leadership in this country where stupidity is the mindset within the education that placed them there, because they will do nothing but run the country as it was organized to be done by the same people that organized the structure of all the politics and all these political offices that they control now. It will take this future into it, and that's their security. I think that's their security blanket. Prepare this younger generation, no matter what it takes, push them through high school, get them into the next place, and we will get them into the next offices. We will provide it. It's pretty much a regurgitation of wash, rinse, and repeat of a circle back system, just like when we had Peppermint Patty up at the within the administration of Biden up there. And I'm glad. I would think that she ran her ass out of there for a particular reason, and I think it was because she saw something to crash into the wall. But so far, they've been able to avert that.
So we're kind of faced with a situation where we've got two political parties. They're really pretty much the same political party. They're almost like two franchises of the same
system.
Whatever system, yeah. And it seems like the D's want to make America totally dependent on America and a complete government state, and where the federal government is in charge of everything, and they want this large federal bureaucracy. And the guys and the people with the R's, they kind of are heading in that direction too, but they just want to do it a lot slower, and and not quite as far to the left as the Democrats want to go. In the meantime, it looks like, I think we've gotten to a point in time where it looks like Biden is going to be on the ballot in November. Now, I wonder, I guess what we don't know is he going to stick with Harris? He almost has to, because the only way Biden got on the ballot in the first place, he lost big time in Iowa in the caucuses a year ago in January. He lost big time in New Hampshire, and it looked like he was done going into South Carolina, which is the third state. In South Carolina, James Clyburn, who's the congressman there, kind of the lead Democrat in the state of South Carolina, said, "I'll get you all the black votes if you do all these things for us. For example, you're going to appoint a black woman to be vice president. You're going to do all these things that we see that Biden's doing now.
Yeah.
We kind of wondered why all those happened. It's because Biden sold his soul to the devil. To get the primary win in South Carolina, which meant that he was able to get into Florida and some other states, and that's the only reason he's where he's at. So
Yeah.
he sold his soul to the devil, and so it looks like he can't get rid of Harris now, because how can he get rid of a black woman when he said he's going to have a black woman? Before he even picks somebody, he says, my vice president's going to be a black woman. Well, shouldn't
didn't she tear him a new ass on that stage?
Oh yeah, she really got into him, calling him a racist and everything.
Exactly.
On the debate stage, but she couldn't even get 1% of the vote of the polling in the primaries, or in the primary vote, so she dropped out early. Now, so that's what we got on the one side. On the other side, we got Trump. It looks like Trump has got the majority. He's going to make it. Of all the others, like Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy, Christie, Rod Burgum, all these. Every one of them would be a much better and more effective and competent president than Biden is. But
I would agree to that.
None of them but Trump is going to really do what needs to be done for America, because I don't think any of the rest of them have got what it takes, the intestinal fortitude to say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to shut down the border. We're going to lower the taxes. We're going to do all these things. I hope that, it's Trump, but the problem is we got about 25% of the Republicans are never Trumpers. They don't like Trump for whatever reason. They'll never vote for Trump because whatever reason they come up with in their minds. That's the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. The Democrats, boy, once they decide on something, they're locked in. They're locked in on they're locked in on Biden. Biden's the greatest thing ever, and they're convinced of that. They'll tell everybody that. They know he's been an abject failure, but they're still going to vote for him because that's who they vote for. And I don't know. I wonder how many votes are going to actually be counted in this next election. You brought up a good point. How many votes will there be?
I don't know. It's
Will there be 150, 160 million? And how many of those votes are going to actually be real votes?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And Kevin McCarthy's sending out a message there that he knows who Trump's pick is going to be for vice president. Well, whether that's true or false, I guess it really doesn't matter. What matters is, we just keep pushing forward, and we've already been through the worst part of the time period, only the time period. It doesn't mean we have faced the reality of everything that they plan on doing to us while we push forward. But the only one with the intensity that understands the entirety of what needs to be done is probably Donald J. Trump, without a doubt. He's been there. He's done it. He knows the corruption. He knows what he's going to be up against. Most people of any person, and I don't think any one person outside of maybe DeSantis is smart enough to understand it, but would he react to it? Would he cure systems of problems within the 3 and 4 letter law enforcement agencies? Does he have the kahunas to get up there and do it the same way Trump would? I don't think he would. And I think, and I wouldn't call this a voice or thought of retaliation on Trump's part. I would call it curing the problem.
Yeah. Trump, it's got to be Trump, whether people like him or not, or want to
That's right.
support him or not. When it gets right down to it, when we get down to I guess August or September, whenever the convention is, and they nominate, it's going to have to be Trump. It can't be anybody else, because nobody else is going to be able to uh, stand up against the political establishment, the deep state bureaucracy. That's all real. And boy, they were really against Trump, weren't they? I mean, they did everything they could to keep him out. But I'm afraid it's going to have to be pretty much of a landslide. I just hope it's a landslide in favor of Trump and not a landslide in favor of Biden. If it's really close, then Trump and whoever wins is going to be okay, and whoever loses is gonna disagree with it, fight it, or whatever, and it's going to even divide us more. So I hope Trump wins it in a landslide, and he can do that if only the legal votes, the legitimate votes, are counted. Which means we really, and Michael, we got to go back to voting on the second Tuesday or the first Tuesday in November. We got to go back to voting then, because this voting in September and October, they got people voting before they even have the debates. Hey, that's another thing. Are we going to have debates?
I don't know what Trump's thinking about some of that scenario. I don't know how to put that together, because, I mean, if a guy who showed up for nothing and ran out of a basement, Trump doesn't show up and wins everything, it puts us in that frame of mind with, like, I don't know what to expect. I just don't. But we can, we'll have to look forward to seeing where he is, and I hope they keep him well protected, because I know they don't want to see him step up to this platform and being eligible to run for the presidency. And, we talked about everything that they're fighting. But again, we have to move forward. We have to think positive and hope for the best, because on the ground, I believe he's safe. In the air, I worry.
Well, getting back to the debate thing, the debates, for the primary debates, that's history. That's in the past. That ain't going to happen. What I'm wondering about is after the conventions, which are typically in August, September, and I don't remember the exact dates of each one of them right now, but sometime in September and October, we've been having 3 presidential debates, and that started back in 1960 when Kennedy and Nixon had their debates. That was the first time we had televised debates. They may have had debates before then, I don't know. Actually, Abraham Lincoln actually debated against the guy he ran against. But anyway, what I'm wondering is, Trump will debate Biden. Will Biden debate Trump? And will he come up with the idea that he's illegitimate, he's an insurrectionist, I'm not going to debate him because he shouldn't be on the ballot in the first place? That's the kind of BS that we're going to hear that will cause them not to interrupt
you. Yeah, but not to interrupt you. Maybe they're actually debating right now. Trump on one side, exposing them, winning against them already, and on the other side, we see the corruption pushing back on Trump and all the illegal activities to keep him out of an election. To me, I think we're already in the midst of a debate in certain ways.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of debates, in just a couple of minutes now, I'm pretty sure it's at 9:00 tonight on Fox News. Trump is going to be on and he's in Iowa, going to be on a town hall that's kind of a prelude to the Iowa caucuses that start next Monday. Next Monday. So he's going to be on, and I know they had Haley on Monday night and DeSantis last night. I wasn't able to see anything of DeSantis. I saw some highlights of it. I watched a little bit of the Nikki Haley one. I'm thinking maybe I do want to switch over and watch Trump. Here's the thing: Trump's going to be on Fox, so they have a limited audience. I mean, they got a big audience, but a limited audience. Maybe what they get, like 5-6 million viewers, and 150 million people vote, and all the people that he really needs to be talking to, just like we're talking to real patriots who are pretty much thinking the same way we do, have the same mindset as us. The people who are going to be watching the Fox News thing, they're going to be pretty much like us. They're going to be pretty much the same mindset. It's not going to be the NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC crowd that we really need to try and educate to get them maybe starting to open up their minds and thinking, hey, maybe there's something different than Marxism in our future. So I'm kind of wondering about that. And I guess what I'm doing is I just
not on me. I get it. No, it's perfectly fine. We come up to that 2-hour mark, and I didn't think we would get here. Not thinking that we couldn't get here. I didn't know how you would feel about it, but
actually, I'm willing to talk for 3 or 4 hours, but I don't know if anybody. We probably wore everybody out by now.
Yeah, I think that positive energy cycle is even with us. You can come out and focus and strong, but it tends to get to a point to where that part of the energy starts to subside somewhat. But it doesn't mean that we failed in any way. We stuck through it. We got through it. We said a lot. And we can only hope that we point people in America in a more positive direction, where they research. If you don't want to believe us, that's fine. Research it all for yourself. Look at both sides. Look at who doesn't get punished for what they say against a man versus the ones who get punished against saying something about the other man. It's the cycle of the injustice system. We have 2 systems of justice. Neither of them are actually working, but one is still worse than the other. But I want to thank you, Bill Muckler. I appreciate you. Why don't you tell everybody about your books and how they can get a hold of you if they would like to order, and I'll make sure I post them.
Okay. I've got a web page, and that's where you can order my books off of 2020 americabook.com. My books they're hardcover books. 2020, A Clear Vision for America, and then my second book is 2020, A Clear Vision for Our Future. And I got deals and specials and all kinds of things. But go to my webpage. I got a great webpage. You'll really like it. Got a lot of very good information on it. Tells you all about this stuff, and you can order off of there. My print books aren't on Amazon anymore. Amazon sent my books back to me because I don't meet community standards, which should be a real good reason why any of our viewers ought to buy this book, because this is a book that doesn't meet Amazon's community standards, which means I must have done something right.
I'm telling you.
But anyway,
use your voice.
Anyway, Amazon. I'm a buyer and a seller in Amazon. I got my own Amazon dashboard. I got everything. They didn't shut me out completely because they still have my ebooks on there. So it's a part of the glitch in their algorithms, because they don't have any people making these decisions anymore. They just the computer does it all. But anyway, that's where you can watch me. I'm on Facebook. My name is on there, Bill Muckler, and check me out at 11 o'clock Eastern in the morning. And you can Google me if you so choose. You can do anything. I'm available, and I love talking to people. And Michael, thanks for so much for inviting me on. And we've been good friends for quite some time now, and we've been together in various times on the show. So. Hey, I love having an opportunity to talk with your audience. I know you got some real loyal viewers that you've built up. You're good. I know.
Well, you know what? It takes work to help people and to get the word out. And I don't mind doing that. It's part of the after process that what comes with the before process. So you're doing all these things as we just did. Now the after process has to go to work. And we will, and we'll get this out there. Make sure America gets to meet you, gets to see you. And I want to thank you again. It's been a pleasure, and I enjoyed our conversations, and you're always welcome back. You know that.
Yeah, I know that for sure. Thanks so much. And hey, God bless everybody. God bless you and your loved ones that are watching. And God bless our America.
There you go. Thank you, Bill. Have a great night, brother.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great show with Bill Muckler tonight. It was fabulous. I enjoyed him immensely, and the conversation that he provided for all of us. Outstanding information. And it's nice to be able to deep dive. And I know at times we don't sound like the pros, and we're not trying to come across as the pros. But what I want to leave with is something that I said a little bit earlier in the segment. We have all been victimized, and some people utilize that to cry like a little sissy. And I'm not going to be one of them that will cry. I will fight back. I will do what I can to expose them. But be the one that controls the narrative of the path that we are on in this. This is a fight for humanity, for all women, men, women, and children. It's a vote. And it's a unity that we need to join within each other, to stay strong, to get through to a possible better future to come. But the only way you can do that if you feel so knocked down is to get up, shake it off, and take that next step forward. And do what you can for you. Do what you can for your family. Shake it off, keep going. Do what it takes to make the progress and get back meaning to your life. Be that warrior. We are all we are all the warriors. We really are. I've always said, and I used to jokingly mess around and say, you are the warriors of the 10. I strongly believe that you are, and that you always have been, and that you will continue to do so. And I hope you'll watch more segments of the shows. I also do some other shows, but before I go offline, I'm going to be bringing up a couple guests that are going to be coming up out of the South. And we're going to talk about some old world history and things that might be important to the facts. Bill mentioned a couple things, Abraham Lincoln, and we're going to deep dive a little bit. And I think it'll be really educational and to talk about a narrative such as that. So Randy Rose is going to be on with his general. We're going to talk about where the Confederacy and the Confederate flag and all these other wonderful things, because these are all part of our history. The good part, the better part, the strong parts, the successful parts. So I hope you'll join me on that show. I have my other guests coming up, and you can always catch me also, on the Dark Radio Network Project. Sometimes you'll find me on Pittsburgh Paranormal, Chasing Prophecy, those guys. But to all you people out there, Trump's coming on, is what the man just told us. I would suggest you go and check it out. Kill an hour, give him the time. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you hanging in, and many of you have. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.